Welcome to Uncovered. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dr. Berman. I just have a problem with my fiance. She's a borderline alcoholic and just a nasty alcoholic. And I just don't know, how to deal with this. How do I make her realize what she is and get better,
What do you mean by a borderline alcoholic?
Well,
she has borderline personality and is an alcoholic, or she's on the cusp of being an alcoholic?
I've never experienced alcoholism in my family, so I don't know. I mean...
Okay, so you're hemming and hawing over whether or not to say she has an alcohol abuse problem. So what does she do? How much does she drink? And what it sounds like she gets pretty out of control when she does drink. But how often is it happening?
Probably drinks about 5 days a week. Normally after work.
And how much are we talking?
I'm gonna probably say about a half a bottle of vodka.
Ooh, that's a lot. And how much does she weigh, more or less? I mean, is she a little woman?
I'm going to say probably like 190.
Okay. So, I mean, that's still a lot, even though she's not like 100 pounds. Okay. So, what? And you say she gets mean and nasty. Does she black out? Does she remember? Does she remember afterwards?
A lot of times she doesn't remember the things that she says to me, the way she treats me, the things that she calls me. It's very hurtful.
And how long has this been going on?
About 5 years.
So what made you reach out now? Because it sounds like it's...
I was listening to the radio station, and, I said, you know what, let me give her a call. And maybe if she could...
I'm so glad you did. I mean, just
the right way.
See, this is why I do this show, for people like you who are struggling in silence for 5 years.
Right.
And,
I've never done this before.
Aw, yay. I'm so glad you called. Well, here's the bottom line. I think understanding what alcoholism is, right? It's not necessarily, we think it's like the guy drunk passed out on the street, the local town drunk, and that's the guy that's the alcoholic. But alcoholics come in all different forms, shapes, and sizes, and the common denominators are that you're regularly engaging and drinking to the point where you're not in control of your faculties. You act out in ways that are destructive to your relationships, your ability to function, your ability to hold down a job. You're not in choice, which is obviously the hardest thing for people to admit. So they don't necessarily identify as that at first. And it's, the blackouts, the not remembering, the acting in uncharacteristic ways. Obviously that happens to everybody once in a while. But when you're talking about 5 nights a week, that's a lot. And if she has addiction in her past or in her family history, obviously she's going to be more prone to addiction. But it certainly is true that people who don't have addiction in their history can develop addictions. And the nature of an addiction is that you are using said substance or behavior or whatever that thing is that you're addicted to in order not to feel, in order not to be with whatever it is that you don't want to be with or don't want to face or don't want to deal with. So if this has been going on for 5 years, it's not situational. It's who she is. And you're going to have to get to the place where you're going to be willing or not to draw a line in the sand and be very, very clear about what your deal breaker is. And you may not be ready to be clear on that yet because you've never had exposure to this before. So where I would encourage you to start is by going yourself to Codependence Anonymous groups. Or Al-Anon, for instance. So if you go to the AA Alcoholics Anonymous website, or Al-Anon, you look up Al-Anon, there's always Al-Anon meetings happening along with AA meetings in every community, and it is for the people who love addicts and alcoholics. There's Narcanon for people who love those who are addicted to drugs, and there's Al-Anon for alcohol. There's also CODA, which is a general codependence group, because that's basically the dynamic you're dealing with when you're in a 5-year relationship with an alcoholic, the ways in which you maybe are scared to set boundaries, the ways in which you may accidentally be enabling her, recognizing how to set those boundaries, what's keeping you from drawing a line in the sand and helping you do that. Those are the kinds of things. And you'll find a community of people who will do some reality testing with you, because what ends up happening when you're in a 5-year relationship with someone who's an alcoholic is that they're gaslighting you all the time, meaning that you start to think that you're being irrational, a stick in the mud, too judgmental, you make excuses for her, all of those things. That's part of the dynamic as well. So you'll really recognize yourself, you'll get educated, and then you'll get some skills for determining how to deal with this particular situation in your life according to your terms. But the key is in getting you back into power, because you do not have to live this way.
No. I care a lot about her,
Of course.
Just wish that she would just, I do go to Al-Anon.
Oh, you do?
Sometimes I go, I started going, but sometimes I get angry because it's like, why do I have to go to this?
Yeah.
I don't have the problem.
Right. Right. Well, that's where the counseling comes in, because you're the only way, and I'm sure you have heard this in the Al-Anon meetings, and if you've read anything about loving an alcoholic, you will see, and that means whether they're your love partner or your kid or your parent or whatever, the only thing that causes that person who is the addict to make the changes and get sober is themselves. There is nothing that the addict is literally incapable of, while it's in active addiction, incapable of loving someone or something more than that which they're addicted to.
Right.
And so that comes first. And your resentment is normal. But what has to happen is that for all of us in these kinds of situations is that the pain of being in that situation for you has to get greater than your fear of walking away. And when that happens, you will be able to go to her and say, listen, I cannot live this way. I didn't know that this could happen. I've been trying to deal with it for 5 years. I've tried everything I can on my own. And the bottom line is I don't want to spend the rest of my life with an addict who mistreats me 5 out of 7 nights a week, doesn't remember it the next day, and isn't conscious and present for our relationship. And I'm not willing to live that way anymore. And when you do that and draw that line in the sand, you can't be bluffing, right? You got to really mean it. And it may, in fact, even mean that you kick her out or you move out. And at that point, usually when that's what they mean by hitting rock bottom. Now I've lost my relationship. Now I've lost my job. Now I've lost my home. Now I've lost, at some point, and everybody has a different threshold, they've screwed up their lives enough where they're finally willing to take responsibility themselves. And that's when the real change occurs. So, get angry, but you'll have to get angry and frustrated to the point where that's greater than your fear of walking away from this. You understand what I mean by that?
Absolutely.
So just keep working it, and maybe get into some individual therapy as well, because I think if you can dive deeper into the anger and really get clear on why you're struggling with the boundaries you want to set, not that there's a right or wrong answer when it comes to that, but for you in particular, I think that would be really healing and helpful to you. Okay?
Okay.
We're cheering you on. You call anytime you need some support. You're not alone, okay?
Thank you so much. You're
all right. Good luck. You call too. If you need some help, I'm here for you anytime at 855-5UNCOVER.